Yes, sir.
In the state SRAC committee, what rules do they use at the beginning of each session in order to start after an election takes place? Because they serve in biennium too. Do they start completely fresh and there are no rules until they adopt them?
Basically, yes, they do, and the first order of business is to adopt the new bylaw.
And if the rules are not adopted,
Then,
the existing rules are in place.
then technically, I guess you are going ahead and keeping them in place, but they adopt them. They take care of that very quickly.
Right. Under the existing rules.
I can't say for sure that that's the way it's done. I served 6 terms on the SRAC, and first thing we did was adopt bylaws. That's it. Once the roll call was done, you did the bylaws.
Yes. Allison?
At the MCRP meetings that we had after the convention, sorry, I'll talk loud, they moved to consider the bylaws at the next meeting in September. So they postponed it.
I don't believe that's correct. I was there as well. They adopted the bylaws, and under the new party rules, you can pass amendments or change those bylaws with a simple majority rather than 2/3.
I don't know. I understood it to be that they were going to take care of that at the next meeting rather than the organizational meeting. Walter, do you remember?
We voted to take care of it at the next meeting.
That's not the way.
I recognize Mr. Baker.
At the SRC meeting. I agree with what Jim said.
Point of inquiry, are the rules that they use for permanent rules for the permanent committee, for the permanent rules committee, or are they for amending the rules? Because the rules for amending is a simple majority to amend. To adopt rules, the rules state in the platform and in the rules, the permanent rules must be adopted by 2/3.
I didn't follow what you were saying there.
Come up here. Judy? Do you have something to add to all this?
No, I just wanted to reaffirm what I understood Jim to say about the SREC meeting after the convention.
Okay, thank you.
I am Scott Baker with Precinct 23, by the way. I'm sorry, it's in the bylaws. Article 6, Section 2. Article 6. There was a suggestion that we require it. If not, our bylaws apply because the rules we haven't enacted any laws. Any bylaws. That means we're under the existing bylaws. What rule are we using?
It's the same.
Then what rule are we using?
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. I recognize you. Right.
What's the ruling?
Okay, now, yes, Mr. Sunderland.
I have another point of inquiry, sir. I'm sorry. What rules is this organization meeting under currently right now?
Under the RPT rules.
Can we get back to the motion on the floor?
Just a minute, you have the floor. Well, just settle down, you're not going anywhere.
Are the RPT rules are separate than the SRAC bylaws?
That's correct.
He has the floor. And then he has the floor.
So don't we have a motion on the floor?
Okay. I recognize you.
Don't we have a motion on the floor?
You did it.
Can we take care of it?
Standing to call the question. I motion to call the question.
Okay. Question been called.
Not been seconded.
We're voting on the substitute.
Call the question.
Oh, is there a second?
Second what?
Where could you call the question?
It's in debate, that's what it's saying.
It's not debatable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Point of inquiry?
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is really confusing because it's very hard to hear, okay? So I'm Becky Feaster, precinct 61. We're voting on to replace the current bylaws with these bylaws and then we vote on them again, or is this it?
You're
What we're
voting
voting
to
on
call the
now is to
question.
call the question and cut off debate.
What debate? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. No, have it.
Still discussing. Still in discussion.
Yeah, so now we're back into discussion. And Becky, do you have your questions?
Question or? Yes,
Identify yourself.
Identify myself. Again, Becky Feaster, precinct 61. I'm a little nervous doing this. I'm not great at talking in front of groups, especially when I'm nervous. I'll be honest with you all, I was shocked when I got my email, totally shocked when I got an email telling me about other bylaws. Because I thought, wow, this doesn't even make any sense. Our current county chairman has done a great job. 50 years, went from blue to red, okay? So I cannot be in favor of this set of bylaws because I just don't agree with us going to everything being run by a committee. Because I would be surprised if we get much done if that happens, but who knows, maybe we will. I can't be in agreement with this. I currently like the process we have right now. I saw this as a Democratic Party tactic. Your candidate didn't win, so we're changing the rules. That's my
Okay, we're debating the substitute motion. We have a for and against.
That was an against. I will speak for.
Beg pardon?
I would like to speak for.
Okay.
John Boucher, precinct 35. Loud enough? No. I'm here to speak for. I noticed something about politics in general, about Montgomery County politics in particular. Whenever there's a substantive debate to be had, somehow, somewhere during that time, it gets pivoted sort of to this discussion about personality. So I want to be clear about something. These bylaws are not about any one person, and these bylaws are not a carbon copy of some other county's bylaws. These parties were drafted for the purpose of modernizing this party, unifying the party, and putting us in a better position to defeat Democrats. We've seen Democrats mobilize, hold on a second, we've seen Democrats mobilize, they're energized, they're focused, they're out there right now, and they have won elections on the Woodlands Township Board, on the Lone Star College Board, and right now we're involved in a dogfight for a city council position against Republicans. And under our old bylaws, we hide behind the alibi of it's against our bylaws to endorse a Republican candidate, and I think that's wrong. So let me ask you a question tonight, and you can answer it. Do you think right now that the Republican Party in Montgomery County takes advantage of the technology that's out there and the resources to the best of their ability to help Republican candidates?
Yes.
We do not have a presence on social media today. Elections are won and lost by the effectiveness of using technology and social media. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. These bylaws will put us in a better position to compete on that level. We'll spread things out. It gives you the power to represent the people that voted you into office. You put yourself out there as a precinct chair to represent their best interests, to do what you could to help them. You have the opportunity to do that instead of unilateral decisions being made. So we ask that you support the amendment.
I'd like to introduce you to our social media man. And there he is right there.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of on social media.
Yeah.
Well, that should tell you something.
Okay.
Baker, Precinct 23, once again at your pleasure, serving the good people of Precinct 23. Before us is presented to wholesale, completely wipe out the existing bylaws and put in a new substitutionary one. And the explicit reason that we've been stated by this gentleman is to decentralize and democratize it so that it's more representative of the committee. But you'll notice one thing. There's a we that's been presented, and there's an our that's been presented. And the fact is that we didn't include everybody in this executive committee. A self-appointed group of small people who claim they're conservatives. I myself am a conservative, but apparently I don't have the little pen or whatever because I didn't get invited to the party. So my question is why don't we do this through the regular process? We have a rules committee. We could set up a special committee just to reevaluate the bylaws, and go and look at what Travis County has done. Look and see if it's been successful and tested that we want to put this in place. Or do we take the formula that we've been arguably successful? If you're a Republican in Montgomery County, 80% of the time, you're going to win. That's as simple as that. And there's a gentleman right here who had a lot to do with it. And they don't say it. I keep asking why, and nobody wants to say why. Why do we need to do this? That's the question. Why? We want modernization. Barack Obama wanted modernization. I don't want his modernization. You know, can we change? Is there room to discuss? Yes, there are things that can be fixed with our bylaws. Absolutely. I'm willing to have that discussion all day long. I'd be happy to sit in the committee, join you guys. I'd be glad to invite all you guys to sit down and let's review it, discuss it, see what works, see what doesn't. But to wholesale sweep the whole thing into the carpet that's been working for 50 years and say, we got to start over again because we need something new. You know, we get new things all the time. But I have a Declaration of Independence. I have a U.S. Constitution. They've been in place for a long time, and they are good documents. I don't need a new version of the documents.
Is there further discussion? You're going to be voting on approving the substitute motion.
How many for and how many against are allowed to speak?
Any number.
This is important. We're not limiting the number. If you want to speak, or against, whichever.
Against.
Everybody in this room needs to understand what we're voting on. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. I'm Charlie Parade, Precinct 38. I want to give you a history lesson behind these bylaws, which the group, we and our, did not even give to their own people when they mailed out the summary. These proposed bylaws, as they even said, are loosely tied to the Travis County Republican Party bylaws that were instituted when James Dickey, the current RPT chair, got defeated in 2016 by 6,000 votes in his own county by an author who spent no money. The guy was, and these are my words, was such a whack job that the CEC then said, oh my goodness, we cannot have a guy like this running our party. So therefore they got together and established the baseline of what these proposed bylaws are. Now, this guy only lasted a couple of months. Chairman Dickey got voted back on in and served less than a year before he was pulled on up to be the RPT chairman. So their statement that it served underneath him for a little bit, that's fine. They were instituted to block a guy who they knew was not worthy of running their county. So what you're saying is, by proposing these bylaws, this gentleman right here is no longer worthy of running the party. In fact, in these bylaws, there is a steering committee. Does he run the steering committee? No, he gets one vote on that steering committee. So before you vote these new bylaws in, realize what you're doing. Also, we meet 4 times a year. We've met 8 times underneath the current bylaws. There has not been one amendment proposed. And when did this come up? When we or their candidate lost the chairmanship. They could not stand to have lost the thought of them being in control. That's why these bylaws are being proposed.
Order.
What a victory for Charlie.
Yeah.
Did these Travis County rules, did Chairman Dickey take these to the Republican Party of Texas and try to implement them there?
No.
No.
This steering committee, anything like that, is any of this stuff, did he take it with him and say, this is a great idea, let's take it to the RPT and implement it there?
No, in fact, to answer your question more fully, after Chairman Dickey then became the RPT chairman and one of their, the current members of the CEC then became the county chairman, they removed the steering committee and redid those bylaws because they realized those bylaws were in place for only one reason, and that was to limit the power of the elected chairman.
Yeah.
Point of question.
Point of information. I mean, point of order, sorry.
We have someone back there that has a floor.
My only question is, the information you're putting out, where did you get that from?
March 2nd, 2016, the Texas Tribune. The title of the article is, and it was written right after the election, and I have to call it on up, but it was a very, very derogatory term about the new guy and what he did the night of the election and what he was tweeting and so on and so forth. But that's where the statistics about the vote count. He received 25,000 votes. It was 6,000 more than Dickey received. March 2nd, 2016, Texas Tribune.
KT,
I'd like to speak against as well if I can. Or do we have to wait until some fours speak?
I'm sorry.
Do we have to wait for some fours to speak, or can I go ahead and speak against?
Can I speak for?
Go ahead, KT.
You want to speak?
I acquiesce to you.
KT, you want to speak? I recognize you.
I'm going to let him start.
All right, so I would like to speak for the bylaws, the new bylaws, Reagan Reed Precinct 50. And I would also like to wade into some of the history here. It's always been my favorite subject. So some of the information is accurate, but some of it is not, that y'all just heard. I want to read y'all a quote first by Chairman Dickey, because once Robert Morrow got in, Chairman Dickey was instrumental in crafting these new bylaws. And in his words, and you can look it up, it's an article in the Boston American Statesman from June of 2016, these bylaws were not about any one person necessarily. They made it very clear, Chairman Dickey made it very clear, that the precinct chairs in Travis County over the years had ceded more and more authority that they had originally to the county chairman, to the point where it got so consolidated that the precinct chairs weren't really able to do too much, and it was a very unhealthy balance. And so that really created a problem. Whenever Mr. Morrow got elected, it exposed that whole problem. And so this is Chairman Dickey's exact quote. Recommended, the intent is not to usurp authority, said outgoing party chairman James Dickey, but to restore authority to the executive committee in the form of a newly created steering committee. That was his intent. It was to decentralize power and have a more fair environment where you couldn't have an example of someone like Morrow come in and abuse it, because you had these checks and balances in place. And if we want to talk about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the key to those documents was decentralization of power and checks and balances. The founding fathers knew what it was like to experience centralized control. And so they instituted a system of checks and balances. And so that's what we're intending to do here. If you look at the timeline, Robert Morrow was only chair for a couple of months, in which then James Dickey was reinstated, as he said. So the bylaws were under Dickey for longer than they were under Morrow. And when Dickey came back in, he kept the new bylaws in place, specifically because he liked the decentralization and he liked the way it worked. They weren't ever changed again until long after Dickey had left. And so you know, that, I hope that clarifies some of the history of what went on in Travis County. You know, Mora was the catalyst, but it was really about something much bigger than Mora. It was about decentralization. And this has the full support of Chairman Dickey. I'll get to you in a second. You know, what we're trying to do here, you know, like Mr. Boucher said, this is not personal. And one thing that I found in politics is that when people come out with issues or the merits of a particular proposal, they make it personal. They make it about personalities. And guys, we can't do that, because that's what the Democrats do. You know, we need to stick to the facts of what's actually before us. What is being discussed, what's being proposed, and decide, do we like this proposal, and does it merit our support? And so with this new set of bylaws, this puts you in the driver's seat. It allows everything to be debated out in the open and discussed and voted on by the entire executive committee. It allows us to elect our own officers. It will allow us to endorse nonpartisan races. And in my humble opinion, this will lead to more party unity. Because the way that we have unity is when we all come together in a room and discuss things.
Everybody's talking in here. We cannot hear.
So folks, you know, regardless of whether or not this passes, you know, if we're going to keep the party successful, we need to unite with each other and work towards the greater goal. And it's my opinion, you know, this is not about, you know, us versus them, as it's tried to make out. This is about decentralizing power, putting it back in your hands, and ensuring, you know, fairness for everyone. That's what this boils down to. This is about fairness, openness, and transparency. So that's why I like to support this.
I actually have two questions for you. Can you please point to me in the United States Constitution where there's a steering committee that guides the executive branch of the United States of America? That would be the president. No.
Yeah.
He just claimed that the Constitution supports what they're doing with the steering committee. So point to me where the chief executive of the United States of America, the president of the United States, has an elected steering committee in addition to Congress and the Senate.
It's called the Congress and the Senate.
And number two, are these rules of the steering committee in place right now in Travis County?
I gave the history of that.
No. Are they right now in place in Travis County?
I gave the history of that.
So the answer is no.
The answer is it was
no.
It was not. It was taken out after Dickey left by a chair who had a different philosophy and didn't believe in decentralization. But I would ask, to further answer that question, Travis County's bylaws that they currently have more similarity to what we're proposing, because they still have more decentralization than Montgomery County's current bylaws. They still elect their officers. There's a number of other, you know, issues.
To clarify, they do not have the steering committee.
They do not have the steering committee. Yes.
Point of inquiry.
Good.
Would you explain to all the people that are going to be voting how your bylaws are going to unite this party? Because what I hear tonight, we're not united. What this proposal has done is it even voted down amendments that were going to help decentralize, help, you know, marginalize, help progress some of the ideas that your group wants. But explain to all of us who are going to vote here very, very quickly on a very serious issue how this is going to unite Montgomery County.
That's a really good question. I'd be happy to answer that. Really what's at stake here is the way to bring unity, true unity. You know, you can have disagreements among a body, but the way to bring true unity is to have everything fair and transparent and open, and that leads to strengthened partnerships when everything's out and open. When everything is you know, forced on the body from above, you know, that's not the way to create, you know, true unity. That's where the divisions and everything that we're seeing comes from. And so if we're able to have fairness and balance in the party, that will lead to unity.
Point of inquiry. If that's the case, then why didn't you include all of us? Y'all
were, the bylaws were sent out to every single chair
You
for
were
14 days.
did not invite a majority of people to participate in the things that y'all came up with for this. You did not.
Everyone was notified 14 days
No,
in
you
advance.
notified us. You did not
Exactly.
notify us to participate in coming up with it.
Everyone was notified 2 weeks, well, actually 3 weeks in advance. And at that point, everyone, contact information was on there. Anybody could have picked up the phone and talked about it. So y'all were included.
I recognize Jody Reservoir.
Sir, is there
I'm sorry, I recognize Jody Reservoir.
Reagan, take a
Reagan,
seat.
sit down.
Reagan, take a seat.
Of our precinct 82. I want to put, please stand,
Oh.
Reagan.
Address the chair.
Thank you.
Address the chair.
I want to know, 14 days prior, you say everyone was informed of these new bylaws. I care to differ with you, young man. I was not informed by email, phone, or any other way other than when I reached out and contacted that chairman standing behind me. I was not aware of the new rules, regulations, bylaws, or anything until I reached out.
Your precinct was listed on the website as a vacancy at the time, and
Well,
everyone
guess
had heard
what?
that
It's
you had
not
resigned.
vacant.
So I don't know.
So you did not reach out to anyone. I'm sitting here with a row of people that were not included in that couple of rows, as a matter of fact, in that new bylaws change. We have reached out as a handshake tonight. Join with us. We want to join with you. We want to make a change, yes. But the head has to exist. The President of the United States has to exist, or you will end up with another Germany under Adolf Hitler.
Point of information.
Yes.
Was there not in the previous set of bylaws exist an advisory committee?
My understanding is there is an advisory committee.
I know, I'm on it. That's what happened. I've not been invited to one meeting in the last 2 years.
Exactly right.
So what kind of advice are we able to give?
That's the strength of, in our bylaws, the steering committee can call the meeting themselves. So you have the advisory committee at the majority votes. And
Chair
keep in mind,
recognizes Jim Dole.
the steering committee is chosen by all of you.
Mr. Reed.
My name is Jim Doyle, precinct 56.
I'm sorry, I was there.
And
She was in line
anyway,
first.
I've
No,
been
Jim,
precinct
she was in
chair for
line first.
19
KT,
years.
just a minute. KT, come on up. Come on.
Are you doing a point of inquiry or are you speaking for?
I just want to thank you before.
She has the floor.
I actually had asked to speak again.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And I'm very loud. My name is KT Jackson. I'm the precinct chair for 62. And I was just sworn in, just like all of us, to represent precinct 62, precinct 1, precinct, not to represent me, not to represent a special interest. I was sworn in to represent, so I went back and looked at my tally tape from my election, and they voted for Dr. Wally, they voted for me by 2/3 votes. And I'm sorry, where is Reagan? You may have invited us to the steering committee, but I didn't get the invite either. I'm not saying there is anything wrong with the new projected bylaws, but I think that the tactics are a little bit wrong. And to me, those are kind of the tactics I've come to expect from the Democrats. And we talk unity. I really am. I want unity because it upsets me. I've just been to the state convention. I saw behavior that was really not becoming of some of us. And maybe I was guilty of it too. And we all should know about that and think about that and take that to our Lord and Savior. But I'm going to tell you, I just think I've got to speak against until we can all meet together as one group. Because one thing is I looked in the Texas Ethics Committee and I didn't even see that this was a group. So I think you better make sure whoever's paying for your postage, I'm just letting you know so that you don't get fined for anything delinquent filing or anything, because that's a scary thing. But other than that, I mean, I would like to be unified also, but I have to say the tactics are a little bit disconcerting, and I'll just leave you with this. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, is it a duck? I'm not sure.
Sorry, we gotta get time. Jim Dahl?
Parliamentary.
Mr. Dahl, you had your hand up. You gotta come up here.
Name is Jim Doyle.
Identify yourself.
Pardon?
Identify
Jim
yourself.
Doyle, precinct 56. I've been a precinct chair for 18 years. And all that time, I felt that the body of the precinct chair should have a lot more to say about what happens than what you can.
Chair recognizes Mr. Spratt. Come up here.
Parliamentary inquiry, just a question for our parliamentarian.
Okay. What's the question?
When addressing, under Robert's Rules of Orders, when addressing speakers, when addressing motions, just in the name of civility, shouldn't all comments for or against and questions be directed and spoken to the chairman of the body?
You are correct. Thank you.
Just
my name's Brian Crumby. I'm precinct 13. So I've been doing this 18 years, and got a lot of we and them and us and them. It's been around for 18 years. So my suggestion is we got lots of hatchets. That's louder. So the comment that, can't say names, the previous speaker said about unchristian behavior.
Well, I mean, I'm guilty too.
I
That's
know,
what I'm saying.
No. And she was right. She was right. She called me out. How many of you looked at the link I talked about, the advantage by Patrick and Jim? How many of you looked at it? Man, you guys got to look at that stuff. We are a team. We're a terrible team. We beat each other up. Talk about each other's back. We're a bad team. We're bad. Okay? We've got to stop. We're a team.
This is not the way to do it.
Okay? So we're a team. We've acted terribly. We need to throw the hatches down. It doesn't mean we need to be peaceful. This is not going to be patty. It's going to be high emotions. There's a lot of high emotions here. Many of us have violated Robert's rules. Robert's rules, what Rex just said, it's perfect. It calms down the tensions, and some of the comments are hurtful. We got pain. I got a whole list of scars on my back. Right? So we all got scars. We've all offended. We've done it. These bylaws, spread the power out and distribute it. I've been thinking about this for 18 years. How do I, in the majority, I know this conservative way is right. I know. How do I go against it? I've been in the minority for 18 years. This is not payback. Not payback. If I pay back, I'm just as wrong. I'm just as wrong.
You're conservative, but some of us aren't.
Chairman, can I speak? So
he has the floor.
Let me talk. So part of the problem is I don't listen to you guys. Birds of a feather flock together. It happens. It's gonna happen. It's life. So I'm gonna bury the hatchet. I'm still gonna have a strong opinion. Okay? I think we can. These bylaws are good. I think they're going to pass. But then on, how do we behave? How do we, and we really create a team. Patrick Lynch says the team has to trust each other. I mean, we don't know each other. There's a lot of it. It's a big group. I can't know this. So hopefully this makes some sense. I'm going to ignore me. So that's my commitment to you guys. I'm going to mess up. Tell my wife. Try my best. I'm very grateful. When I came in a long time ago, I was a younger gun and did rambunctious. And so I think I've mellowed out a little bit. I think I've learned those scars. They're good. God knows what he's doing. God knows what he's doing. He's working on all of us. So hopefully we can work with these bylaws. We can bury more hazards. And hopefully in November we can elect good people and continue this on. Thank you.
Scott, did you want to say something?
Dr. Wally, I have parliamentary inquiry.
Okay, yeah, I recognize Charlie first.
We've been allowed to ask questions to each other, so I have a question for Brian.
I may or may not answer. Go ahead if you want to.
Okay, we've heard a lot about unity. We've heard a lot about transparency. Would you be willing to withdraw the motion of the bylaws and form a bylaws committee of select people on both, whatever committee you want to have, where both sides are represented, and work through a new set of bylaws, adopt the current bylaws, and then amend bylaws as required? Are you, in the name of unity and transparency, are you willing to withdraw the motion?
Or to withdraw the motion.
Parliamentarians and
Scott Baker, we recognize.
I'd like to make a motion. Scott Baker, Precinct 23. I move that we strike the language in the bylaws that have been presented to strike and adopt the existing bylaws with the Rules Committee tasked, an elected Rules Committee by this body to evaluate the bylaws and have an open period of discussion of a period to be determined, 6 weeks, a month, whatever, and have a separate special meeting that we can all go and sit and evaluate and read all of the rules and understand the reason why and evaluate the impact of those rules. I make a motion that we strike this motion and replace the bylaws, move forward with the existing bylaws, adding that we're going to create a temporary or permanent committee.
It's a good idea, except the parliamentarian says it's not possible. Not possible.
Parliamentary inquiry?
Yes.
Just based on what Scott has just proposed, that at this
You're
point...
going to speak up.
Dr. Wally, Brad Spratt, Precinct 71.
Go up where you can hear you.
If you can't hear me, okay, just a quick question that, Scott, I know at this point you said it's not germane, but could that be brought up when we get back to the original motion should the substitution fail?
If the substitution fails, then you go to the original motion. You can't do anything else to it that's substitute. All you can do is correct technical errors. So that would still be out of order at that point.
You want to be recognized, Walter?
Could we not make a motion to amend it once it's adopted?
Amend what?
The rule.
Now, remember, we're talking about the substitute motion.
Okay, I make a substitutionary motion to substitute the substitution.
I'm depending on him. I don't know what the hell.
Good try, Scott.
Table the substitute motion.
I'm going to recognize the number, but then I'm going to take a point of special privilege, and I'm going to say some things about what I've heard tonight. Go ahead.
Point of information. If you could clarify what perfecting meant, as I understand it, we've already debated both two motions. We're addressing the suspense, and then later we'll address the amendment, and that there won't be any other amendments because we've already perfected both.
The second motion has not been perfected yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Walter, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, he's been taking
Yes.
20
Come
minutes.
on, you gotta come up here. We can't hear you back there in that corner.
My name is Walter West. I am with Precinct 16. The hour of the day, the week. This is a week. Understand that I have gone throughout Senate District 4 and 17, 11, and a bunch of others. We have a fight on our hands here. Where I go to in these places, I hear about Dr. Watt. I was with the Village Republican Women with the Harris County Republican Party just the other day. Represented in that party were folks that know Dr. Wilkerson, have a very kind respect for him. Up here, he is leading our party. Within our party, as with most families, with most units, we have disagreements. These are things that we refer back to the head. Our county chair for the party was elected by a majority of the people. Now, that majority of the people slim in the last election. However, that was a majority of the people, meaning he represents all of us now. In doing this representation, we need to look at the fact at who each of us represent. We represent our small faction of precincts within the county. There are things that could have been done prior to us and them, we and they, here and who, that are being done one county away, 2 counties away. These bylaws, the proposed bylaws, most of these from the proposed bylaws have actually been passed in Harris County this past weekend. However, that is not limit the duties of the chair. That actually goes to where we're needing to be right now. We need to be a unified party. Both sides. Dr. Wilkerson called me on the phone last week. We had a discussion. I've been to some of these meetings. I've seen the discussion. Back and forth, and just so you know, my candidate won, okay, over on my side of the county. There are beliefs that I have, and there's people I've seen. We need to push our candidates. At the end of the day, this is where we do need to be. Okay, this right here is a meeting that can drag on all night long. Parliamentary this, parliamentary that, point of inquiry. But the point of the order is, we need to be representative of what we are here for. That's to represent Montgomery County, to keep Montgomery County red. It's been a good job so far. We're over 500,000 people. But we have a county to the south of us that just 2 years ago lost every election in our party. 54, okay? Every election. However, you have a county south of them where the county chair is currently, if I'm not mistaken, the lawsuit, he actually sued precinct chairs. They have to find their own representation to do their voluntarily paid job that they were duly elected for. Okay. This, and then in the discussion here, we bring in personalities. Those are what need to be left to the table. As an individual who has seen democracy, because it wasn't in a constitutional republic, but we have tried as soldiers and gone into other countries and helped them out with their democracy. I have seen more stability. Keep in mind, I'm not on the in crowd, I'm just in the crowd. Okay? So whatever we are and they are, we need to function as a unit. Dr. Wally was elected as our county chair. That is an overwhelming reality. There are things in the past 54 years that have happened. Because he came in what, 1964? Okay. The summer after John F. Kennedy was killed, this gentleman right here took over this party. We've gone strides, we've done things. Some things have changed. We just need to change a little bit, right?
Me too.
Okay. Well, what we need to do is we need to unify. What we need to do is we need to take out the candidate set. What we need to do is talk about races that are within us and not the races that a group or a faction won or lost on the state level. There are things that some of y'all on both sides have no clue about. The true facts of what is this for. These are things we need to get past. These are things we need to get past. If there's a motion, Mr. Chairman, if there is a motion that two different groups come together, and this is something that can be agreed upon in the proper order, then those two different groups need to get together at a table, if I'm not mistaken. That's all yours. But the conversation we had, that's what you wanted to do. Matter of fact, I hate to say it, but I had to stand for Charlie's pre-education. There you go. I had to stand for the one thing you proposed. I think I'm a day. But that makes me a week, okay? So if us can get together, okay? We talked about the Scott, we talked about the Constitution. I've sworn, defended, and I've also had to worry about people that died in my hands. As never a place would be at. I'm there just in my 3 kids. Folks, this is reality. We need to get this meeting, bring it together. It's more than just us. It's the folks that are out there. You don't realize it's coming. Those demons, whether they be Democrats or something worse, they are coming. What we saw last week, the past 2 days, in the Capitol, they've been testifying for them gun legislation.
You can't adjourn the meeting.
Okay, folks, look at the unity, bring it together. Okay, I guess I'm a for and against. So we get something.